My sister thought I was lying about being pregnant, so she pushed me down the stairs to expose me, but I turned her test into her downfall. There are moments when you realize the person closest to you is actually the most dangerous one, and for me, that moment came when I was tumbling down the stairs while my sister stood above saying, "Now we'll find out if you're really pregnant or not." My name is Jessica Warren and I'm 27 years old. I work as a nurse at the city's central hospital, a job that taught me to read people, to notice when something's wrong, to trust my instincts. But somehow, I missed all the warning signs when it came to my own family. 3 months ago I discovered I was pregnant, the most joyful news of my life. I couldn't wait to share it with everyone, especially my older sister Vanessa. Vanessa had always been the golden child in our family. At 30 she was a paralegal at a respected law firm, sharp as a tack, and everything our parents wanted in a daughter. Growing up I lived in her shadow, but I never resented it. I admired her, looked up to her, trusted her completely. She was my role model, my confidant, the person I turned to when life got complicated. So when I called her that Tuesday evening to share my pregnancy news, I expected squeals of excitement, maybe some tears of joy. Instead, I got silence. Long, uncomfortable silence. "Are you sure?" she finally asked, her voice flat. "Of course I'm sure, Vanessa. I took 3 tests, went to the doctor. I'm 12 weeks along." 12 weeks? And you're just telling us now? The question caught me off guard. I wanted to wait until the first trimester was over, to be safe. "Your stomach doesn't look any different." I laughed nervously. "Well, it's still early. Not everyone shows right away." But even as I said it, something cold settled in my chest. This wasn't the reaction I'd dreamed of. This wasn't my sister being happy for me. This was interrogation. Over the next few weeks, things got stranger. Every family gathering became a medical examination. Vanessa would study my body, ask pointed questions about my symptoms, compare my experience to pregnancy stories she'd heard from friends. She'd make comments like, "You don't seem to have morning sickness," or "Most pregnant women I know are exhausted by now. You seem pretty energetic." At first I tried to laugh it off. Everyone experiences pregnancy differently, right? But Vanessa's scrutiny felt relentless. She'd ask to see my prenatal vitamins, question why I wasn't drinking more milk, wonder aloud why I hadn't gained any weight yet. It was like she was building a case against me, collecting evidence that I was somehow faking the whole thing. The worst part? She started planting seeds of doubt with our parents. "Mom, doesn't Jessica seem normal to you? Like not pregnant normal? Dad, remember how sick Aunt Linda was when she was pregnant? Jessica doesn't seem sick at all." Slowly I began to notice the change in my parents too. The excitement in their voices dimmed. They started asking their own questions, their own tests. My mother would hug me and feel around my stomach. My father would make jokes about seeing proof soon enough. I was losing my mind. Here I was, carrying their grandchild, and somehow I was the one who had to prove it was real. But I couldn't figure out why. Why would Vanessa doubt me? Why would she want to turn our family against me? What did she gain from making me feel like a liar? Then came the text messages. At first they seemed innocent enough. Vanessa asking about my doctor appointments, my symptoms, my due date. But the tone was always wrong, always probing, always skeptical. "Still no morning sickness? That's unusual. Are you sure about your due date? The timing seems off. I've been reading about false pregnancies. Did you know stress can cause all the symptoms?" I started screenshotting every message, though I wasn't sure why at the time. Something about the systematic nature of her doubt felt wrong, calculated, like she was building a case against me. But the real proof of her intentions came when I discovered she'd been calling my doctor's office. I found out by accident when Dr. Martinez mentioned that my sister had called asking about my pregnancy test results. "I never asked my sister to call you," I told her. Dr. Martinez frowned. "She said you'd given her permission. She claimed she was helping you manage your appointments because you were too overwhelmed." That's when I knew for certain that Vanessa's doubt wasn't innocent concern, it was an active investigation. She was trying to catch me in a lie that didn't exist. The answer to why came by accident during my shift at the hospital. I was filing some paperwork when I saw a familiar name on a medical record that had been misfiled, Vanessa Warren. My heart stopped. It was dated 8 months ago. The diagnosis made my blood run cold, spontaneous abortion at 7 weeks gestation. Vanessa had been pregnant, She'd lost the baby, and she'd never told anyone. Everything clicked into place. The questions, the doubt, the way she studied my body like she was looking for proof I was lying. She wasn't just skeptical of my pregnancy, she was devastated by her own loss. And somehow, in her grief and anger, she'd convinced herself that if she couldn't have a baby, then maybe I couldn't either. Maybe I was making it all up. But understanding her motivation didn't make her behavior acceptable. If anything, it made it worse, because it meant she was deliberately trying to sabotage my happiness out of her own pain. I started documenting everything more carefully. Every suspicious text, every intrusive question, every time she undermined me in front of our parents. I recorded phone conversations where she pressed me for proof. I saved voicemails where she joked about false pregnancies. I also started noticing other disturbing behaviors. She'd go through my purse when I wasn't looking, probably searching for pregnancy tests or prenatal vitamins. She'd follow me to the grocery store and watch what I bought, looking for evidence that I wasn't really eating for two. She even started showing up at my apartment unannounced, claiming she just wanted to check on me. It was psychological warfare, and I was losing my grip on reality. Some days I almost believed her. Maybe I was imagining the symptoms. Maybe the pregnancy tests were wrong. Maybe I was so desperate to compete with her that I'd convinced myself I was pregnant when I wasn't. But then I'd feel the flutter of movement inside me, see the growing curve of my belly, and know with absolute certainty that my baby was real. The breaking point came on a Sunday afternoon in early December. We were all at our parents' house for dinner, and Vanessa started her usual routine, but more aggressively than ever before. "Jessica, you're what, 16 weeks now? You should definitely be showing by now." "Everyone's different, Vanessa, but not that different. I mean, there are limits to how much pregnancies can vary." My father chimed in. "Your mother was huge by 16 weeks with both of you girls." "Exactly," Vanessa said, warming to the topic. "And Jessica, you haven't had any food cravings, any morning sickness, any of the normal symptoms. Don't you think that's odd?" "I've had symptoms." "Like what? Fatigue, breast tenderness, some nausea in the mornings? Those are all things you could easily fake or imagine." My mother, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "Vanessa does have a point, honey. Maybe you should take another test, just to be sure." I stared at her in disbelief. "Mom, I've taken multiple tests. I've been to the doctor. I have ultrasound photos." "Photos can be faked," Vanessa said quietly. "And you work at a hospital, you'd know how to fake test results." The room went silent. Even my parents looked shocked at the boldness of her accusation. I stood up abruptly. "I can't do this anymore." "Can't do what?" "Answer simple questions about your supposed pregnancy." "Stop calling it supposed, Vanessa. I'm pregnant. I have a baby growing inside me. And I don't know why that threatens you so much, but I'm done pretending this is normal. What threatens me is having a sister who lies to our entire family for attention." "I'm not lying." "Then prove it." "I don't have to prove anything to you." That's when I made my mistake. In my anger and frustration, I revealed what I knew. "You want to know why you can't believe I'm pregnant, Vanessa? Because you can't stand that I have what you lost." "I know about the miscarriage." The color drained from her face. "What are you talking about? 8 months ago, 7 weeks along. I saw the medical record." For a moment she looked like she might break down. Her eyes filled with tears, and I thought maybe we could finally talk about this. Maybe I could help her through her grief. Instead, she got angry. Furiously, violently angry. "How dare you go through my medical records? It was misfiled. I saw it by accident. You had no right." "Vanessa, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry you went through that. But that doesn't mean I'm lying about my pregnancy, doesn't it?" Her voice turned cold, calculating. "You work at a hospital, Jessica. You have access to pregnancy tests, medical knowledge, fake documents. You saw my records and you decided to use my pain against me by pretending to have what I lost." I stared at her in disbelief. "That's insane. Why would I do that?" "Because you've always been jealous of me. Because you want to be the center of attention for once. Because you can't stand that I'm the successful one, the one Mom and Dad are proud of." "That's not true, isn't it? You've spent your whole life trying to compete with me, and now you've found the one thing you think you can win at, having a baby. Except you can't actually get pregnant, can you? So you're faking it." My parents were watching this exchange with growing alarm, but they weren't defending me. They weren't telling Vanessa she was being ridiculous. They were just watching. I'm not faking anything, Vanessa. I can prove it. Then prove it. Right now. Call your doctor. Make an appointment for today. We'll all go together and see this so-called baby on the ultrasound. I don't have to prove anything to you. See? That's exactly what someone who's lying would say. The argument escalated quickly from there. Voices raised, accusations flew, and finally I'd had enough. Fine, I said, pulling out my phone. You want proof? I'll give you proof. I started dialing Dr. Martinez's emergency line. What are you doing? Vanessa asked. Calling my doctor. I'm going to schedule an emergency ultrasound for right now. You can all come with me and see for yourselves. But that wasn't enough for Vanessa. Maybe it was the fear that she was about to be proven wrong. Or maybe it was just pure rage that I wasn't backing down. Either way, what happened next changed everything. You know what? She said, stepping closer to me. Her voice was eerily calm now, which somehow made it more terrifying. I don't think we need to wait for a doctor's appointment. What do you mean? If you're really pregnant, if there's really a baby in there, then a little fall wouldn't hurt it, would it? Pregnant women trip and fall all the time. If you're really pregnant, the baby would be fine. I saw the look in her eyes and knew, with the absolute certainty that comes from pure terror, that she was about to do something terrible. Vanessa, don't, but she was already moving. Her hands came up flat against my chest, and she shoved me backward with all her strength. I was standing at the top of the stairs, and there was nowhere to go but down. The fall seemed to last forever. I remember hitting the third step with my shoulder, the seventh with my hip, tumbling and rolling and trying desperately to protect my stomach. I remember the sound my body made when I finally hit the bottom, a sickening thud that echoed through the house, and I remember Vanessa's voice from the top of the stairs, cold and satisfied. Now we'll find out if you're really pregnant or not. Everything after that was chaos. My parents screaming, someone calling 911, the paramedics asking me questions I couldn't focus enough to answer. All I could think about was my baby. Was my baby okay? Had Vanessa's twisted test killed the child I'd wanted so desperately? The irony wasn't lost on me that I ended up at my own hospital, where my colleagues became my caregivers. Dr. Martinez was called in immediately, her face pale with concern as she examined me. Jessica, I need you to stay calm while I do an ultrasound, okay? We need to check on the baby. The room was silent as she moved the wand over my bruised abdomen, searching for signs of life. I held my breath, waiting for the worst news of my life. And then we heard it, the strong, steady heartbeat of my baby. Everything looks good, Dr. Martinez said, relief evident in her voice. Baby is fine, strong heartbeat, no signs of placental abruption or other complications. You were very lucky. Lucky. I'd been pushed down a flight of stairs by my own sister, and I was lucky. I had a concussion, 3 cracked ribs and bruises covering half my body, but my baby was alive. My baby was safe. Vanessa's cruel test had failed. My parents arrived at the hospital within the hour, Vanessa in tow. She looked shaken, probably realizing the magnitude of what she'd done. But she wasn't apologetic. She was already crafting her defense. When the police officer arrived to take my statement, Vanessa was ready. It was an accident, she told him, her voice steady and convincing. We were having a heated discussion, and I was gesturing with my hands. Jessica stepped backward and lost her balance. I tried to catch her, but it happened so fast. An accident. As if I'd imagined the deliberate shove, the calculated look in her eyes, the words about testing whether I was really pregnant. That's not what happened, I said weakly from my hospital bed. Jessica's been under a lot of stress lately, Vanessa continued. She's been having some issues with reality, making up stories, seeking attention. I think the fall might have confused her. Even now, even after nearly killing me and my baby, she was trying to make me look like the unstable one. Officer, I said, I need to tell you what really happened. But before I could speak, my mother pulled the officer aside. My daughters have always had a complicated relationship, she said quietly. Jessica has been struggling lately, making claims, causing drama. I'm not sure how reliable her account will be. I watched in horror as my own mother undermined my credibility, painting me as an unreliable narrator of my own assault. After the officer left, having decided there wasn't enough evidence to pursue charges, my parents approached my bed. Jessica, my mother said, her voice gentle but firm. We need to talk about what happens next. What do you mean? Vanessa feels terrible about what happened. It was an accident, but she knows you're upset. She's willing to pay your medical bills, help out however she can. It wasn't an accident. Honey, you have a head injury. You're confused? I'm not confused, Mom. She pushed me. She said she wanted to test if I was really pregnant. My father stepped forward even if that were true, and I'm not saying it is. Pressing charges against your sister won't help anyone. It would destroy her career, tear our family apart. She tried to kill my baby. The baby is fine, my mother said. The doctor said so. No harm was done. No harm? I stared at them in disbelief. I could have died. My baby could have died. But you didn't. You're both fine. So maybe it's time to let this go. Let it go. They wanted me to pretend my sister hadn't just committed assault and attempted to cause a miscarriage because it would be inconvenient for the family if I didn't. What if I don't want to let it go? My parents exchanged a look. Then maybe you need to think about whether you want to be part of this family or not, my father said quietly. The threat was clear: side with Vanessa, or lose everyone. For a moment I wavered. These were my parents, the people who'd raised me, loved me, supported me my entire life. Could I really choose to lose them forever? But then I felt a small flutter in my belly. My baby moving, still alive despite Vanessa's attempt to prove otherwise. I thought about what kind of mother I wanted to be, what kind of example I wanted to set. Did I want to teach my child that family loyalty meant accepting abuse, that keeping the peace was more important than standing up for what's right? The answer was clear. Officer, I called out to the policeman who was leaving. I'd like to press charges after all. The next few months were hell. Vanessa hired an expensive defense attorney, who painted me as a vindictive sister seeking revenge for childhood jealousies. My parents testified on her behalf, swearing they'd witnessed an accident, not an assault. Friends and extended family took sides, and most of them chose Vanessa. But I had evidence they didn't expect. The security camera in our parents' hallway had captured everything: the argument, the deliberate shove, even the audio of Vanessa saying she wanted to test my pregnancy. I had months of text messages where she'd questioned my pregnancy, voice recordings of her spreading doubts to other family members, and testimony from Dr. Martinez about her suspicious calls to the medical office. Most importantly, I had my own medical colleagues who testified about the nature of my injuries and how they were consistent with being pushed rather than simply falling. The trial was a media sensation. Sister pushes pregnant sibling downstairs to test pregnancy made headlines across the state. Vanessa's law firm fired her before the trial even concluded. Her reputation as the perfect daughter, the successful professional, the golden child, all of it crumbled in the face of what she'd done. She was convicted of assault in the second degree and reckless endangerment. The judge sentenced her to 2 years in prison, followed by 3 years of probation and mandatory anger management counseling. Your actions, the judge said during sentencing, were not just an assault on your sister, but an attempt to harm an unborn child. The cruelty and premeditation involved in this crime are particularly disturbing given the family relationship. My parents never forgave me for pressing charges. They cut me out of their lives completely, choosing to support Vanessa even after her conviction. They claimed I had destroyed the family and that I was vindictive and unforgiving. It hurt more than I can describe, but I knew I'd made the right choice. The pregnancy continued without complications, though I struggled with anxiety and depression in the aftermath of the assault. I started seeing a therapist who specialized in family trauma and domestic violence, learning to process what had happened and rebuild my sense of safety. I moved across the state during my 3rd trimester, far from the family that had chosen an abuser over a victim. I found a new OB/GYN, made new friends through prenatal classes, built a new life where people believed me when I spoke, where I didn't have to prove my truth to anyone. The other nurses at my new hospital were incredibly supportive. When they learned about my situation, they rallied around me, offering everything from baby clothes to emotional support. For the first time in months, I felt like I belonged somewhere. 5 months after the assault, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. I named her Hope, not just because she represented hope for my future, but because she'd given me hope during the darkest time of my life when Vanessa tried to destroy everything I believed about family and trust and love. Hope reminded me that there was still goodness in the world. The first time I held her, looking into her perfect little face, I knew with absolute certainty that every sacrifice had been worth it. This beautiful, innocent child was the reason I'd endured months of doubt, psychological torture, and physical assault. She was the reason I'd stood up to my family, pressed charges, and rebuilt my life from scratch. I threw myself into work and motherhood, discovering strengths I never knew I had. My experience with Vanessa, horrible as it was, gave me a unique perspective on domestic violence and family abuse. I started volunteering with organizations that help pregnant women in crisis, offering support to those who, like me, found themselves isolated and doubted by the people who should have protected them. The work was healing for me. Every woman I helped, every crisis I assisted with, felt like a small victory against the kind of cruelty Vanessa had shown me. I became an advocate for believing victims, for taking domestic violence seriously even when it happens within families, for protecting pregnant women from abuse. 2 years later, I was promoted to head nurse in our hospital's maternal-fetal medicine unit. The promotion came with a significant pay raise, and the opportunity to implement new protocols for identifying and helping pregnant women experiencing abuse. I created training programs for medical staff on recognizing signs of family violence and developed support systems for victims. Every day I got to be the person I needed when Vanessa was tearing my life apart. I believed women when they told me something was wrong. I took their concerns seriously. I helped them find resources and support. I reminded them that they deserved to be safe and believed. Hope grew into a bright, curious toddler who filled my life with joy and laughter. She had no idea that her existence had once been questioned, that someone had tried to harm her before she was even born. To her, the world was a safe, loving place where she was wanted and cherished. I told myself that someday, when she was older, I would explain why she didn't have grandparents on my side, why we lived so far from where I grew up. I'd tell her about standing up for what's right, even when it costs everything, about choosing safety over family loyalty, about the difference between people who love you and people who claim to love you while hurting you. 3 years after the assault, I received an unexpected visitor at the hospital. My mother stood in the lobby, looking older and more fragile than I remembered. I hadn't seen her since the trial. "Jessica," she said when I approached, "could we talk?" We went to a quiet corner of the cafeteria. She looked uncomfortable, nervous. "I wanted to see Hope," she said finally. "My granddaughter." "Now you want to see her?" "I've always wanted to see her. You're the one who moved away." "I moved away because you chose Vanessa over me and my child. We didn't choose anyone, we wanted to keep the family together. By asking me to pretend I wasn't assaulted?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Vanessa got out of prison last month. I know. I'd been notified as part of the victim's rights process. She's different. Broken. She lost everything. Her job, her reputation, her future. She's living with us now, and she's not the same person." "Good," I said, and I meant it. "That's a cruel thing to say about your sister. She tried to kill my baby, Mom. Cruelty is pushing a pregnant woman down the stairs, not being glad there were consequences. She was grieving. She'd lost a baby and seeing you pregnant. Don't you dare make excuses for her. Not now. Not after everything." My mother started crying. "I miss you, Jessica. I miss Hope. I don't even know my own granddaughter. That was your choice. Can't we put this behind us? Can't we be a family again?" I looked at this woman who had raised me, who had once been my safe harbor, who had chosen to protect my abuser instead of me. "What's changed, Mom? Are you ready to admit that Vanessa assaulted me? Are you ready to acknowledge that what she did was wrong?" She hesitated. "It was complicated." "No, it wasn't. It was simple. She hurt me, and you defended her. You chose her over me and your granddaughter. She's sick, Jessica. She needs help. Then help her. But don't ask me to sacrifice my safety and my daughter's well-being for your comfort. So that's it? You'll never forgive us?" I thought about that question for a long time. "I've already forgiven you, Mom. I had to, for my own peace. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. And it doesn't mean putting Hope at risk. She wouldn't hurt Hope. She tried to kill Hope before she was even born. What makes you think she wouldn't try again?" My mother had no answer for that. "If you want a relationship with me and Hope," I said finally, "then you need to accept reality. Vanessa assaulted me. She tried to cause a miscarriage. She was rightfully convicted and punished. Until you can acknowledge those facts, we have nothing to talk about." She left without agreeing to my terms. I never saw her again. Hope is 5 now, starting kindergarten in the fall. She's confident, happy, surrounded by love from the chosen family we've built together. She knows she has a grandmother somewhere who loves her but can't see her because of grown-up problems that aren't her fault. Someday, when she's older, I'll explain more. But for now, she's safe and loved, and that's enough. I still think about Vanessa sometimes, wonder if she ever regrets what she did, if she understands the full scope of what she destroyed. I think about my parents, aging and stubborn, missing out on knowing their granddaughter because they can't admit their golden child was capable of evil. But I don't regret my choices. Not the decision to press charges, not the move across the state, not the boundaries I've maintained with my family of origin. Because Hope deserves a mother who stands up for what's right, even when it costs everything. She deserves to grow up knowing that love doesn't hurt, that family means safety and support, that she never has to accept abuse to keep the peace. Last week, I was promoted again. This time to Director of Women's Services for our entire hospital system. The position will allow me to expand our domestic violence prevention programs statewide, helping even more women and children escape dangerous situations. As I signed the contract for my new position, I thought about the girl I used to be. The one who lived in her sister's shadow, who desperately wanted family approval, who might have chosen silence over justice to keep everyone happy. That girl is gone, replaced by a woman who knows her worth, who fights for what's right, who builds the life she wants rather than accepting what others decide she deserves. Today, as I watch Hope play in our backyard, laughing as she chases butterflies, I know I made the right choice. Sometimes protecting what matters most means letting go of what you thought you couldn't live without. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who refuse to see your worth. The family you choose, the people who believe you and support you and celebrate your victories, they matter more than the people who share your DNA but not your values. Hope will grow up knowing she is wanted, believed, and fiercely protected. She'll learn that love means safety, that family means loyalty works both ways, that standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. And if someday she faces her own impossible choice between peace and justice, between family loyalty and self-preservation, I hope she'll remember her mother's story. I hope she'll choose herself, choose truth, choose the life she deserves over the one others try to force on her. In the end, that's the greatest gift I can give her, the knowledge that she is worth fighting for, even when the people who should fight for her won't. Especially then.